Arch Advocate Podcast. Happy Friday to you, everybody. Don't listen to the snake, for he lies and he takes your hope, your faith away from you. Got a lot to get to today. Gonna try to keep it under an hour. First, and sorry for the sound of the chainsaw in the background there. Today I'm going to read to you your daily devotional from Sarah Young, who wrote Jesus Calling, a daily devotional book. Sarah Young, a longtime missionary. This is written in the first person as if it is Jesus speaking to us directly. I am above all things, your problems, your pain, and the swirling events in this ever-changing world. When you behold my face, you rise above circumstances and rest with me in heavenly realms. This is the way of peace. Living in the light of my presence. I guarantee that you will always have problems in this life, but they must not become your focus. When you feel yourself sinking into the sea of circumstances, just cry out, "Help me, Jesus," and I will draw you back to me. And if you have to say it 1,000 times a day, don't be discouraged. I know your weakness, and I meet you in that very place. This is how prophets train. This is how to do it. It's 1,000 times a day, crying out. The Apostle Paul said, pray without ceasing. How is that possible? I thought prayer was when I stop, say some words, pour out my heart to God. I thought it's a bracket of time. Paul said, no, that's not what prayer is. Your concept of prayer is wrong. Paul said, pray without ceasing. How do you do that? How do you change the oil on your car and pray at the same time? How do you have a conversation with your spouse or with your children and at the same time be in a open dialogue with the Almighty? How is this possible? That's not possible. I have to sit down, close my eyes, fold my hands, and say, "Our Father who art in heaven." And Paul said, nope. You're thinking about it all wrong. You're conceptualizing it all wrong. Here's the play. Here's the deal. Pray all the time. All the time. To where it even becomes you start praying in your sleep. And you pray without ceasing. Because prayer is communication with God. And you better learn that. Me too. Like, I'm not like, this is your problem and this is how I figured it out. It's like, no. No, I'm with you in the boat. I'm with you in the boat with the wind and the waves crying out, Jesus, why are you asleep? Come save us. I'm with you. Right? I'm with you. You know what I mean? I'm learning how to pray without ceasing. And in this time that we're in, thank God that chainsaw stopped there. In this time that we're living, we are bombarded with lies. And it's so bad that a lot of times you don't even see it anymore. Right? Like we all were watching, not Ted Cruz, what's the other guy? Marco Rubio. Right? We all saw that guy. Was it Marco Rubio? No, what was that guy's name? He's one of those Republican and name only people, and he's just been against Trump this whole time. Or that dude from Arizona, Jeff Flake. Right? It's like, oh man, I thought you were one of us. Oh no, you were deceived. He tricked us. God says, don't be deceived. Focus on the truth. You cry out in every single circumstance. These times that we're living in, look, I'll give you a good example. Okay, so yesterday I did a podcast on that John of God dude who was raping. He's been raping. He had a rape farm And he was promoted by Oprah Winfrey, and promoted in both sense of the term. Like, Oprah went down, did a whole show on him, brought a lot of attention. But she also, in the same way, like a job gives you a promotion, your boss comes and gives you a promotion. That's what Oprah Winfrey did for John of God, that dude. She said, here, you're making this much money now, you have this much exposure, I'm going to cast the whole world's sight onto you and promote you. You will now be of higher rank, and you will be making more money. It's a powerful thing. Powerful thing. All right? My radar always goes up. And it's not because I'm like some holy man. It's just I've just been in the ring too many times. Listen, I grew up seeing this stuff. I grew up watching people, the guest speaker at the church, it's this prophetic guy. He's got this, his gift is prophecy, and he's going to come and he's going to give us a prophetic word, and then there's going to be ministry time. And if you go forward, maybe you'll be one of the lucky ones. Maybe he'll talk to you and tell you your fortune. It's like, wait a minute. You're not a prophet, you're a fortune teller. That's different. And some of the fortunes that I heard told from pulpits and holy places were absolutely mind-boggling. Like, I remember just sitting there going, like, am I the only one who gets what's happening here? I use this one example because it's easy, but just try to believe me when I tell you, like, I could do show after show. I could do hours on this of just instant after instance, just full of, I could just do a show of anecdotes, personal stories of mine that I saw. And there's this guy, his name is Mark something or other. I can't remember that guy's last name. He's a professional prophet, right? And he comes and he gives good, he's a good sermon giver. But then he does these prophecy things, and there, that was the thing. It's like he would do his sermons, and then after the sermon there would be, ministry time. And this one time he was up there and he says, hey, you. And it just so happened to be the niece of the head pastor. I really think that I got a prophecy for you. I really feel like God's telling me, God is going to use you in your life. He's going to use, I just see your hands. I just see your hands, and God's going to use your hands. And it was just, I'm just sitting there like, okay, am I the only person here who cleaned out their ears this morning with Q-tips? Is anybody else hearing this? You mean the hands that everybody has two of? Except for people who are, unfortunately got into a horrible accident or were born deformed or of some sort and don't have two hands, but everybody else, those two hands, that's your big prophecy that in your calling from God, it's going to require the usage of two hands. Wow, what a barn burner. Let's build a temple to her. Nice girl. I know, like, she's married a good friend of mine, and they're happily married. They have a bunch of kids now. But you know what I'm saying? It's just like, come on, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't try to get yourself into a position of favor with the pastor of a 5,000 member church so that you can keep coming back and getting that sweet, what do they call that? The money that you get if you're a minister, whatever it's called. You want to get that sweet dollar. You want to keep getting invited back, so you pick out the niece of the head pastor and be like, oh, God told me you have hands. Golly. I'm trying not to cuss, but it's just like, and listen, so I can spot him a mile away. I remember when Oprah Winfrey did that John of God thing. Oh, that's what I wanted to tell you guys. Listen, that lady that I said killed herself, and I put a note. When I did yesterday's podcast, like during the time that I was editing it and uploading or putting the file onto the hard drive so I could get it ready to post to, YouTube and whatnot, Jamie Deluxe came out and he did a story just about an hour before I did. And then he came out and he recanted and he said, oh, listen, I'm sorry, I told this the wrong way. The lady who is said to have killed herself, she actually just posted a video saying, I didn't kill myself. It was a friend of mine who did. A friend of mine that was working very closely with me on this particular case, and she killed herself. And she was crying. She's like, this is my fault, and whatever. So, she's alive, but we can't say, praise God, because it was somebody else that was very close to her that killed herself. You have to see the demons working here. You must open your eyes, and don't be afraid. You can't be afraid. You see, demons, I'll give you a good example. There's this lady that wrote a tweet to C.J. Pearson. For you people who don't know, C.J. Pearson is a young kid. He's a young guy. And he had written this tweet. Let me find it here for you. I'm not going to be able to find it. Hold on one second. Hold on. Okay, so Nydia Velasquez. Nydia. She was sitting next to Ocasio-Cortez, and C.J. Pearson is a teenage kid. He's a young guy. He's a black kid, and I've invited him months ago. I invited him on the show. Never heard back, but it's cool. Sure, he's a busy kid. But he wrote a tweet. He says, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been talking the entire speech, the entire State of the Union address, and the woman next to her keeps trying to look the other way. And she's all laughing. And this lady writes her back and says, "Hi, C.J. Pearson. I'm not the woman sitting next to her. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and I, and millions like us, are the future of this country, and you're right to be afraid of us. But you should learn my name." There's a lot of things significant about this. There's a lot of significance in that. That thing about learning, you should learn my name. That is something that demons say. That's something demons say. You should learn my name. There's significance in that. There's the reason why Jesus asked the names of those demons. What is your name, demon? My name is Legion, for we are many. He says, you should be afraid of us. That's something that demons say. That's something, now listen, this is where, if I have not already convinced you that I'm a crazy person, this will. Right? And I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I know what I know, you know what you know. On a number of occasions and on different continents, I've had demonics, the people that were under the suppression of demons, talk with me and say, "Are you afraid yet? Are you afraid of us yet?" That's the exact same question. I had it happen in San Diego. I had it happen in somewhere in Europe. I've had it happen a number of times. That same question, "Are you afraid yet? Are you afraid? Oh, Miami, are you afraid of us yet? Are you afraid yet?" No. I'm not afraid of you, snake. Demons want you to be afraid of them in the sense that, the same fear that you might have for a bear if you come across it in the wood. Like, you're afraid of a bear because you don't want its effects in your life, right? And then King Solomon wrote, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, because it's a different type of fear. It's a fear of being absent from. Right? I'm not afraid of God being in my life. I'm afraid of God being out of my life. You know what I mean? I'm not afraid of demons being outside of my life. You know what I mean? They want you to be afraid of them being in your life. They want fear, because fear weakens you. That type of fear. There's two different types of fear. You know what I mean? Like fear that, your wife would leave you and take the kids. It's like, it's not a fear of something happened to you. It's a fear of something being vacuous from you. Different kind of fear. And therefore I try to be a better husband and a better father, that sort of thing. These times that we're living in, you have to see it. You have to see what's going on. A man that was promoted by Oprah Winfrey just got caught running a sex rape farm with the sole purpose of producing a product, babies, so that those babies could be sold into the black market outside of any sort of structure of adoption, any sort of legal, proceedings to ensure that those babies are going to a solid family. It's demonic. It's demonic. You must see it and not be afraid. Not be afraid. These are weaklings. Weaklings do that. Cowards prey upon the weak. Right? It's like that. It's like there's that old saying, the weak are victimized by the strong, and the strong are victimized by the clever. Right? You don't have to fear these things, but you do need to be aware of it. That's what's going down in this day and age. Oprah Winfrey promoted, in both senses of the word, a man who was claiming that he had the spirits of over 30 dead people that were doctors in their lives and other spirits. And that's how he telepathically healed people. That same man was running a rape farm. That same man is also friends with the Clintons. That same man is also friends with the Obamas. The Obamas and the Clintons have a lot of allegations. They're kind of rumors at this point, but there's a lot of allegations surrounding those people about selling children into sex slavery and making children disappear. You say, oh, Pete, that's all conspiracy theory. Well, then I would recommend that you go look up the history of Jimmy Savile, who was knighted by the Queen, who owned a hospital, supposedly did a whole bunch of humanitarian work. Nobody ever lifted their voice up against him, except for one, Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols. The Sex Pistols, who had but one album and one tour, and they were like a flash in the pan, and you can still go to Hot Topic and buy Sex Pistols t-shirts. Johnny Rotten called out Jimmy Savile on TV, on the BBC, and they censored it. They cut it out. He was the only guy, this punk rocker from the UK. Anarchy in the UK. Why is that important? Why is it important for you to know that story? Because when that story came out, a whole list of politicians and other royals went down for being a part of child rape and child murder. Royals and politicians, a lot of them. You think that what I'm talking about is outside of the possibilities? Like, oh no, these are noblemen, these are Congress people and parliament members and presidents and queens and prime ministers and these kind of people. You don't think you can see all of these things happening, and yet you stand and think like, oh well, it's not. I don't think it's some widespread problem. I think it's just one bad apple. Many different fish in the sea, and this is just one dead fish. No, it's an entire society of people, and they worship the devil and they murder babies. And when they have somebody who has a baby farm, they don't have to go steal babies off the street and alert the police to come looking for that baby. They can just take babies that were born in complete anonymity so that nobody will ever ask the question, where is little baby so-and-so? That's demonic. And it's prevalent. That's who these people are. That is what you are up against. And the thing is, I've said this a number of times, like you have to be aware of it, because you need to be praying about this and against that. You need to be praying for the destruction of those particular enemies. You need to be lifting this up to God and crying out to God, because that's how you stay sane. That's how you keep yourself abreast of what's going on without ever looking into the abyss of it. You look into the abyss and you're going to go crazy. Don't do it. And don't listen to the snake. He lies and he takes your hope and your faith. Right? When you start losing hope that there can be good people elected into office, virtuous people, righteous people, you've lost hope. Guess where it went? The snake took it. When you lose faith, guess who took it? The snake took it. Oh, Peter, you talking about the snake from the Garden of Eden? What do you believe in, a talking snake? You don't believe in talking snakes? You don't believe in talking snakes? Really? Let's try this one on for size. There will be no new taxes. That's George Bush. Early 90s. You can keep your doctor and your premiums will actually go down and everybody's going to have health insurance. You don't believe in talking snakes? We need to invade Iraq because they have weapons of mass destruction. You don't believe in talking snakes? I am Spartacus. You should hate yourself if your skin is white. You should hate yourself if you have a penis. You should hate yourself if you're an American. You don't believe in talking snakes? What do you mean? What do you mean you don't believe in talking snakes? They're everywhere. They're everywhere. This snake says, we are the future of this country. And you're right to be afraid of us. You should learn my name. You're a snake. Oh, Brett Kavanaugh raped me back when we were in high school. Although I can't remember where, and I can't remember when, and I don't have any proof whatsoever, and everybody associated with me says that I'm a liar. You don't believe in talking snakes? You can't see the snake look on those people's faces as they stare up at the people who are asking them questions about their allegations, and they shoot that glance, that grinning glance. You don't believe in talking snakes? Come and do what I say, and you will be like God. You will be equal to God if you come and do what we say. That's what the snake says. And God says, you're already like me. You're made in my image. Learn how it is that you are in my image. Learn all of what that implies. Learn of your Father. Right? My sons are just like me. They're just like me. They're made up of my DNA. They're made in my image. They're just like me. Right? And somebody could come along and say, you know what you need to do? You kill your father, you can have all of his stuff. And it's like, you're going to get all my stuff anyways. You already have it. No, come and do what we say. Kill your father. Kill the father. And then you'll be like us. And you will be just like him. It's like, dude, you're already just like me. You know? The whole book starts off that way. They said, let's make man in our image. It's already enough. You already have God's DNA in you. You're already made in his image. Learn to be a son, even if that's, even if you're a girl. Sons and daughters, learn to be a child of God. Learn about your inheritance. Learn about the absolute guarantee that you have to be in communion with your Father. These things that were going on, that we can see going on around us, and it's a lot of different things. I mean, I can sit here, like Joe Rogan going on and having, Jack Dorsey on his show and asking him nothing, and then he has to come back when he does the Brian Redband episode, and he says, there's a lot of people that are mad because I didn't ask Jack any hard questions, and I just wanted to get to know the guy, man. It's like, shut up, dude. No. You had that man on your team. This is a guy, Jack Dorsey went on TV and said the reason why I shut down Alex Jones's Twitter account is because, sometimes people just need a timeout so that they can learn their lesson. It's like, oh, so you see yourself as Alex Jones's parent. Jack Dorsey, who is a sodomite, by the way. He's a sodomite, right? He's never going to have any children because he likes buttholes that are very hairy. You understand that? Like, he wants to exert power because that's what homosexuality is all about. It's about defiling and power, just like rape. It's about power, either submitting to a power or exerting power. And this is what Jack Dorsey wants over Alex Jones, is power, and that's why he spoke those words of like a parent. Alex Jones needs a timeout so he can think about what he's doing. Wow, okay. So, Joe Rogan, you have nothing, you had no fodder. You had nothing prepared to where you're like, hey man, why is it that you talk this way about people? Why is it that Alex Jones gets censored and other, wildly less known conservative people get censored, and yet you have people who call out for open violence against other groups of people? Who's the Taliban or ISIS or one of those people, or both, that still have their Twitter pages? Right, that Chinese girl from the New York Times comes out and she's calling for the death of people. Nothing? You've got nothing on that, but you think Alex Jones needs a quote timeout? Demonic. And not demonic on Jack Dorsey's part, demonic on Joe Rogan's part. He's over there listening to this thing and he's shilling for these people. It's like, dude, I was into your show, man, when you were asking people hard questions. Why do you do this? Why do you believe this? Explain it to me so that I can join you in your belief. If you think that censoring Alex Jones was the right thing to do, then I don't, but I'm open. Give me the information that you're seeing it from. And I'm either going to say, yes, Jack Dorsey, you're right, or I'm going to say, Jack Dorsey, the power has gone to your head, and you're now a complete narcissist and a psychopath. None of that. And you're being fed. Right? The Joe Rogan show, it's like, it's anymore. I don't watch it anymore so that I can learn about these people anymore. I learn it to hear the rhythms of the lives so that I can talk about it. Because to me, it's like, listen, when you have Brian Redband on, and he's a comedian, and you're sitting there you're sitting there giving 10 minutes of excuses, and you're not talking to him, you're talking directly to your audience while making eye contact with Brian Redband, so it looks like you're talking to Brian Redband. But really what you're doing is you're talking to me saying, no, man. No, there's nothing nefarious going on here, man. It's just, it's Jack Dorsey, man. I just wanted to find out about the guy. No. You are in the business of being famous. You're no longer famous for being on the television, on news radio, and on, what was the other show? The one where they eat donkey dicks? You're no longer a professional donkey dick eater, Joe Rogan. You're famous for being famous. You're a Kardashian now. You're famous because you ascended to a certain level, and now you get to hang out with other famous people, and that's what makes you famous. Is this continual churning of the fame pot? You're not famous for any good works. You're famous for taking money from huge corporations. You're famous for sitting down with other famous people and jerking them off. You won't have Alex Jones on your show. You won't have Owen Benjamin on your show, and quite frankly, none of those dudes will do your show. You'll have Sam Harris on there, whose whole philosophy is to get people to stare into the abyss of nihilism, or nihilism, however it is that you prefer to pronounce it. That's your whole thing. Nihilism, Sam Harris. Oh, you'll have him on. You'll have Jordan Peterson on to say, well, the stories in the Bible were really just a metaphor for life. And, Jonah being in the whale for 3 days. It's really, that's where we get the story of Pinocchio, man. It's all a big metaphor. And you really need to get the riches of those stories out. It's like, no, you're deceiving people. Jordan Peterson, you're deceiving people. I'm sure there's plenty of metaphorical truth we can get out of that. But the whole point is, no, you have to believe that this happened. And you don't. So you're not one of us. You can say, well, Pete, that's, that's kind of unfair, to say that because, not everybody has to believe the way you believe. Well, that's true. But in the absence, like on the Joe Rogan show, there is a complete absence of actual, like hardcore Christians. Give me Francis Chan on your show, Joe Rogan, and let him sit there in front of you and talk about the love that he has for Jesus Christ, and you can sit there and make your cute little effing remarks. You do that in front of that guy. Do that in front of that guy, tough guy, Mr. Ninja. Get Ravi Zacharias on your show. You sit there and make your snide little remarks in front of Ravi Zacharias. You do that. You do that. You know what you're like? You know what you people are like? You Joe Rogans and your Jack Dorseys and all you people. You know what those people are like? They're just like Richard Dawkins. When he said, mock them. That's what we should do with religious people. We should mock them. And he's doing it in England, where everybody has some sort of tie to Christianity or the Anglican Church or whatever. Mock them. Yeah, you're free to say that because you're insulated by Christianity. And you know that we're not going to kill you for saying that. And then Ravi Zacharias gets you on a stage and says, that's a great idea, Richard Dawkins. You brilliant mind you. Why don't you fly down to Saudi Arabia and share your profound thoughts with those people? And you know what Richard Dawkins did then? He shut the F up. Hey, Joe Rogan, why don't you sit Jack Dorsey down and actually ask him a difficult question? It could be anything. Why does your face look like you're on Xanax, Jack Dorsey? Why did you use the phrase time out as it applies to Alec Jones, Jack Dorsey? Do you think, are you a parent? Hey, Joe Rogan, why don't you have Ravi Zacharias on there and you can sit there and make your little giggles, tell your little funny jokes about Christianity. Why don't you have somebody that has a history and enough fame to get you interested? Who doesn't give a crap what you think? Why don't you have somebody on your show that doesn't agree with you? You know what I mean? Why are you surrounding yourself with people who are of your, that are like-minded with you? If two people agree on the same thing, there's no argument to be had. If I say the world is round, and you say the world is round, then we're not going to have an argument, are we? We're not going to grow in our knowledge of, whatever, planets or... You see what I'm saying? Like, if you agree with somebody with something, then there's no soil for anything to grow in. It's only through disagreements in the process of making your case and arguing your case with other people with the intention of coming to a common ground. You don't do, there's none of that anymore on the Joe Rogan show. I don't want to see it. I don't want to see two grown men stroking each other off. That's gay. That's faggotry. Sorry, miss, you know who I'm talking about. That's faggotry. Joe Rogan sitting down with Brian Redband, addressing his audience while, maintaining eye contact with Brian Redband, telling his audience, like, I don't know why you guys gave me 600,000 downlikes. You guys are so mean. You're a faggot. You sat there and you jerked off Jack Dorsey, faggot. You see this Ocasio-Cortez thing. It's bananas. It's not bananas that somebody is that dumb. That's not the bananas part. I told you guys before, I once tried to construct an internal combustion engine that would run on dirt. Because dirt was everywhere, man. As far as I could see, there was dirt and shrubs and, mountains and whatever. Dirt was everywhere, so naturally, I needed to build an engine that could run on dirt so that there would be fuel all the time. Anytime I run out of gas, I could just put dirt in that engine. And I tried to construct this engine out of wood. Which anybody who knows anything about the internal combustion engine would know that would be disastrous. However, I was like 5 or 8 or whatever. Right? I didn't know anything. You say, oh, Pete, that's such an adorable story. Yeah, because I was that age. But when it's a almost 30-year-old woman who's never been married, never had any kids, and has been a bartender her whole life, and now she's sitting in Congress of the United States saying, free stuff for everybody. We need to provide for, and this is actually the wording that's in the document. We need to provide for everybody who either cannot work or is unwilling to work. That's right. It's right in there. There's a whole, and by the way, I mean, if I would have sat down and made a list of like just some of the, just right on the surface, like ridiculous things that are in her Green New Deal thing, it's like, okay, are you 5 years old? Are you a 5-year-old? Because you're making the same mistakes that I was making when I thought that I could build an internal combustion engine out of wood that runs on dirt. We need to get rid of planes and instead have electric trains so that, this is actually in there, people. Now, before you laugh, just keep in mind, these are the lies. This is the snake talking. Ms. Cortez says, we need to get rid of airplanes because there's no way for an airplane to run on battery power. Instead, we need to have trains so that people will no longer need airplanes. It's like, well, okay, I know you're 5 years old, so let me explain this to you. See, there's these things called mountains, and trains have to either go around those mountains or they have to tunnel through them. There's also things called cities, which on a train track, the train either has to go through those cities and all of their stoplights and everything, or it has to go around. America is 3,000 miles from one end to the other. You're in an airplane traveling in a straight line at 500 miles an hour, you do the math. When you're on a train traveling from point A to point B at 500 miles an hour, which, by the way, there's some complications with that scenario if you're on a train, you can't travel in a straight line. There's the Rocky Mountains. There's Oklahoma City and St. Louis and Poughkeepsie. And, it's like talking to a 5-year-old. And it's not that it's stupid, it's that it's lies. And there is a segment, I don't know how big, but there is a segment of the population who looks at that, they hear those words and they think, wow, I can't believe nobody thought of this before. Just like when I was a little kid going, I don't understand why the adults haven't figured this out. There's just dirt everywhere. Let's just use that instead of going to the pump. We can just stop our little go-kart and pick up a handful of dirt and put it in the engine. Problem solved. It's one thing when your ignorance is, cute because it's a little kid, who just thinks like, I remember one time, and I would have been about 4 years old. I remember one time I came home and my mom had made peanut brittle. She got the recipe from my grandfather. My grandfather, who was a wretch of a man, just a completely miserable guy, who was angry his whole life. He was angry, but I'll tell you one thing. My boy could cook. My Grandpa Dobson, as awful of a man as he was, dude could serve. All right? If you sat down at my grandpa's table, you better believe you're going to get fed. And it was going to be delicious. All right? He knew how to make peanut brittle from scratch. You know, peanut brittle. Remember that if you go to your grandparents' house, they're going to give you peanut brittle? My grandfather would make it from scratch. He gives that recipe to my mom, and I came home one day from running around outside and playing, and my mom had made an entire cookie sheet full of peanut brittle. And I asked my mom, how did you make that? And this was literally her response. I remember this vividly, she was chewing on a piece of peanut brittle, and she said, with kind of a mouthful of peanut brittle, she says, I stomped on cardboard. That is still one of the most hilarious things to me. I stomped on cardboard, she said. And for many years afterwards, I thought that if you just stomped on cardboard long enough, it would turn into peanut brittle. Because, you know, peanut brittle kind of has that same color of cardboard. Now that was cute, what my mom said. It was hilarious to this day, and I'll probably pull that one on my kids because it's hilarious. And it's hilarious that I fell for it. It's hilarious that I did not have a knowledge base strong enough to stop and say, hey, wait a minute, Mom, that's BS. Everything about that story is cute. It's not cute when it's a sitting congressperson telling the American public you can have free stuff. All we got to do is just take it from the rich guys. They're going to pay for everything. It's like, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way, you snake. Don't listen to the snake, for he lies and he takes your hope, your faith away from you. And you can lose hope in the Congress real easy. You can lose hope that you'll even be given the choice to elect a guy like Trey Gowdy. Was he a congressman or a senator? I can't remember. Or, you know, I like Ted Cruz. There's some problems with that guy, but he doesn't shy away from him. If that guy's got, you know, if that guy screws up, he'll tell you. Or he'll tell you, well, you say I screwed up, but I mean, if you were looking at it from my perspective, and here, let me give you this, it's like, that's different. But going on TV and talking nonsense, and this Muslim girl from Somalia, she's from Somalia. She's not Somalian. You know, she's not an American Somalian. She's from Somalia. She came here on a refugee package. She was born in Somalia. Somalia has a national IQ of less than 70. I don't know what her IQ is. She might be the most highest IQ Somalian who ever lived. I have no idea. But all I know is that the national average is that. And she's openly, like, she attacked the Covington kids. And then it turns out that she was wrong. And they asked her, like, well, now that you've seen all the facts, do you think you owe these people an apology? No apology. It's all right to be wrong. I was wrong about the Covington kids for about a half an hour. I told you guys this. Like, I was wrong about it. I saw the news the same way the rest of America saw the news. We just saw that 2-minute clip and we were like, oh, look at this little asshole. Look at this little Catholic kid. What an asshole. He's being mean to that poor Indian man. And then the news came out. And then the 2 hours of footage came out, and it's like, oh, now I have new information. I'm terribly sorry. Sorry. You know? Nothing wrong with being wrong. There's everything wrong. There's everything demonic when your pride doesn't allow you to say the words, I was wrong. I'm sorry about that. Hey, George H.W. Bush, was there weapons of mass destruction in Iraq? Were the 19 kids who attacked the World Trade Center, were they from Iraq? No. Where were they from? Oh, why did we invade Iraq? Oh, weapons of mass destruction? How'd that work out? Just say you're sorry. Just say you screwed up. Admit that you screwed up. You'll never hear a president do that. That's concerning. That's demonic. You'll never hear a congressperson on the left. And look at these, and that's another thing. I don't want to get too crazy into it. Look at these women's faces and men. Look at their faces. Look at Chuck Schumer's face. Nancy Pelosi. Do you see anything that's a deviation from the standard? When you see those pictures of Peter Strzok and Christine Blasey Ford shooting up their glare up at the panel, do you see anything there? I mean, I know what I see. I see demons. I don't know what you see. Do you see anything that's out of place? Do you have any sort of trained eye whatsoever to see them? Because they walk around right out of the open. Like, demons aren't scary looking. They're just weird looking. Like this Nadia lady. Go look at a picture of her face and then just articulate to yourself what you see. Does that look normal? Does that look standard? Do you see a lot of faces like that around where you live? When you go to the grocery store, when you go to church, when you go to the gas station, you see a lot of people with that particular glaze on their face. Do you see that a lot? Articulate it. Sound it out. You better learn my name. I already know your name, Legion. By the way, that's the whole significance of the story of Rumpelstiltskin, by the way. It hates the sound of its own name. And it has to run away once you identify it. Like, once you identify it, it's like it has to run away. Because, again, demons are weaklings. They peddle weakness. They peddle lies. And lies is what weak people, what cowards do. And they laugh when people buy into their weakness. They're cowards. They're not to be feared. They're not to be feared. They're cowards. Once you learn their name, they start asking to, be sent into a herd of pigs. So back to the pigs with you there, Legion. Nadia Legion. Joe Rogan. Off to the pigs with you, you deceiver. Don't listen to the snakes, people. Don't listen to them. The only thing that they can do is take your hope and your faith. Don't give them that. Don't listen to them. Follow the light. Stay in the truth. That's my prayer for you this weekend. Support the show, folks. Look, you gotta support. If you like something, you gotta support it. And this show costs me money, folks. So if you want to support the show with dough, go on to paypal.me/archadvocate. Paypal.me/archadvocate. That's my PayPal. Send some dough and also tell your friends. We are living in the age of shadows, people, and you better learn how to fight. And that's what we're talking about on this show. We will see you next. We'll see you on Monday.